big. It almost got too big. I was like, stop it. It went from being something cool and unique to something that was almost like, oh, I don't want to hear that song again.
I have not been a part of the band for over 10 years. We did amazing things together. We had a lot of success together, and there's still business that we have to touch on sometimes.
In the mid-1990s, Los Angeles was a chaotic playground of music, fashion, and rebellion. Amidst that energy, two young dreamers, Brett Mazur and Seth Binzer, came together with a vision. They wanted to blend rock and rap in a way no one had done before. Brett, who went by Epic Mazur, had a background in production and hip-hop. Seth, known as Shifty Shellshock, carried a wild charisma and raw emotion that could light up any room. Together, they formed what would become Crazy Town. But back then, the name wasn't even Crazy Town. They started under the name the Brimstone Sluggers, slowly shaping their identity. As they grew, they added more members, like guitarist Rust Epic, drummer James Bradley Jr., and the famous DJ AM, who would later make a name for himself in the electronic music world. By 1999, they had finally found their sound, a mix of heavy guitars, fast rap verses, and catchy melodies. That same year, they released their debut album called The Gift of Game.
Hi, baby. Come here. Closer. Wait till you hear this.
It was a strange blend of aggression and sweetness, reflecting both sides of their personalities. It didn't explode right away, but something on that record would soon change everything. The magic moment that would define Crazy Town's entire career came from a single song no one in the band truly expected to change their lives. That song was Butterfly, released as the third single from their debut album, The Gift of Game. It didn't sound like anything else on the record. Crazy Town had built their identity on heavy guitars, rapped verses, and street-style aggression. But Butterfly was a whole different creature, soft, melodic, and hypnotic. It was the calm in the middle of their storm. The song borrowed a beautiful guitar riff from the Red Hot Chili Peppers' 1989 track Pretty Little Ditty, looping it into a smooth, dreamlike rhythm that instantly pulled listeners in. Over that soothing instrumental, Shifty Shellshock delivered a vocal performance full of warmth and vulnerability. Instead of shouting or rapping with fury, he sang with an honesty that revealed a side of him fans had never heard before. Ironically, the band initially resisted releasing the song. They felt it didn't represent their raw, rebellious image. Crazy Town was supposed to be rough and edgy, not the band behind a sweet love song. Their music was born from the streets of Los Angeles, not from pop radio, but their record label sensed the magic. The executives believed Butterfly could be something massive, something that could cross genres and reach people far beyond their usual crowd. After weeks of hesitation, the band finally agreed to release it, and that decision would change everything. When Butterfly hit the airwaves in 2000, it exploded almost instantly. The soft groove, romantic lyrics, and catchy hook made it irresistible. It was unlike anything else on radio at the time, a love song with a street soul, tender but still cool. The lyrics told a story of healing and affection, of finding light in a world filled with chaos. When Shifty sang, "Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly sugar baby," people connected deeply with the feeling behind it. The song was inspired by a real woman in Shifty's life, someone who had helped him through addiction and pain. She represented stability, purity, and change, everything he longed for. Through Butterfly, he captured a piece of his redemption, transforming personal chaos into musical beauty. That authenticity was what made the song resonate so strongly. It wasn't just a catchy tune, it was an emotional confession wrapped in melody. Within months, Butterfly climbed the charts around the world. It reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for weeks. MTV played the music video on repeat, featuring bright colors, butterflies flying through fantasy-like scenes, and the band performing in a surreal world that looked straight out of a dream. Overnight, Crazy Town went from underground rap rockers to international stars. Shifty's tattooed face became instantly recognizable. Magazines, interviews, and fans surrounded him everywhere he went. The band toured globally, performing in packed arenas and soaking up their sudden fame. Their image, tattoos, baggy pants, piercings, and that rebellious California vibe became a symbol of the early 2000s youth culture. But success came with a shadow. As the song grew bigger, the pressure intensified. Some hardcore rock fans accused them of selling out. Critics labeled them a one-hit wonder, even while they were still on top. And deep inside, the band began to fear that Butterfly's sweetness would bury the raw energy that once defined them. Yet, no matter how they felt, there was no denying what Butterfly had done. It had given them global recognition, millions of fans, and a place in music history. It was both their greatest blessing and their future burden. The beautiful song that would make the world fall in love with Crazy Town, but also the one they could never escape. When Butterfly climbed to #1, Crazy Town's world changed overnight. One day, they were just another band hustling in Los Angeles clubs, and the next, they were international celebrities. The song that started as a small experiment had exploded into one of the biggest hits of the early 2000s. Record sales skyrocketed. MTV couldn't stop playing their video, and fans around the world were suddenly singing their lyrics. But what looked like a dream from the outside quickly became a heavy weight for the people living inside it. The music industry has a way of building artists up only to watch them fall, and Crazy Town was learning that lesson fast. Fame came at lightning speed, and with it came endless shows, press appearances, and travel. They were performing on stages they had once only fantasized about, surrounded by flashing lights and screaming crowds. But behind the smiles, the band members were uneasy. Deep down, they knew Butterfly didn't capture who they truly were. Crazy Town had built their image on raw, aggressive rap rock, music that reflected chaos, struggle, and rebellion. But Butterfly was soft and radio-friendly. It didn't have the grit of their other songs. Fans who loved their hard-hitting sound suddenly thought they were a pop band. Critics called them a fluke, and purists accused them of selling out. The same song that had given them everything now threatened to take away their credibility. Everywhere they went, people only wanted to hear that one song. They could be halfway through a concert, trying to introduce a new track, and the crowd would start chanting for Butterfly.
Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar baby. Come my lady, you're my pretty baby, I'll make your legs shake, you make me go crazy. Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar baby.
Radio hosts brought it up in every interview. Even their label kept pushing them to create something similar, hoping to repeat the same success. But that's the thing about lightning. It rarely strikes twice. The pressure started seeping into their personal lives. Fame brought money, fame brought attention, but it also brought temptation. The lifestyle of constant parties, late nights, and celebrity chaos began taking its toll. Members started clashing over creative decisions. Some wanted to double down on their harder sound, while others leaned toward the catchy, accessible style that had made them famous. Egos clashed, tempers rose, and what had once been a close-knit brotherhood started to crack under the surface. Touring non-stop only made things worse. The schedule was grueling, different cities every night, constant interviews, barely any sleep. They were living out their dream, yet it didn't feel like one anymore. The joy of making music was being replaced by exhaustion and frustration. Still, beneath the tension, there was a shared desire to prove themselves. They didn't want to be written off as a one-hit wonder. They wanted to show the world that they could create more than just a love song. With that determination, they returned to the studio, hoping to channel their struggles into something new. They poured everything they had into their next project, driven by both fear and ambition. They didn't know it yet, but that second album would test them like never before. The fame they had chased for years had finally arrived, but now it was threatening to destroy the very band that had dreamed it into existence. In 2002, Crazy Town tried to reinvent themselves with their second album, Dark Horse. It was nothing like Butterfly. The sound was heavier, the lyrics darker, and the tone more mature. The band had changed, and they wanted their music to show that growth. They poured everything into the project, hoping to prove that they were real artists, not just the guys behind one catchy song. But the world wasn't interested anymore. By the time Dark Horse dropped, musical trends had shifted. The new metal wave that once carried them to fame was fading fast, replaced by a new era of pop-punk and alternative rock. Fans who had loved Butterfly weren't connecting with the band's new style, and critics weren't kind either. Reviews called the album a desperate attempt to stay relevant. Sales told the same story. The record barely made a dent compared to their debut. For a group that had once topped charts worldwide, it was a painful reality check. Inside the band, frustration grew. The creative spark that once bonded them began to fade, replaced by tension and disappointment. By 2003, the pressure, exhaustion, and lack of success became too much to handle. Crazy Town quietly went on hiatus. What started as a dream born in Los Angeles clubs had collapsed under the same fame they had fought so hard to earn. The rise had been fast, but the fall came even faster. For Shifty Shellshock, the lead voice and face of Crazy Town, fame was both a blessing and a curse. When the lights dimmed and the applause faded, he was left with himself, and that was the hardest battle of all. Behind the confident stage persona and magnetic smile was a man haunted by addiction, self-doubt, and the ghosts of his past. The fame that once made him feel untouchable began eating away at him piece by piece. After Crazy Town's sudden fall, Shifty tried to hold on to what was left of his career. But fame had already changed everything. The music industry moved on quickly, and he struggled to find his place. What had once been excitement turned into emptiness. He found himself surrounded by the same party culture that had fueled his rise and now threatened to destroy him. Drugs became a coping mechanism, a way to silence the pressure, guilt, and loneliness that came with being a fallen star. He tried to get help. Shifty appeared on television shows like Celebrity Rehab and Sober House, where millions of people saw his battle unfold. For a while, it seemed like he was making progress. He talked openly about his struggles, about wanting to be better for his kids, for his fans, for himself.
You know, an overnight disaster. I was this kid who just loved making music, and we were on tour, and it was what I always wanted to do. And then you can't ever predict or guess that you're gonna have a song that's that massive. Yeah. And all of a sudden, we went from, we were bad kids, but all of a sudden I had really deep pockets and I had a lot of money, and obviously as a songwriter, I think I'm a really emotional creature, and then you start wondering, a lot of my close friends passed away or disappeared, and all of a sudden I had this crowd of people around me that were like.
There were moments of genuine hope when he looked like the man who once sang about love and transformation. But addiction doesn't let go easily. Relapses came again and again, each one heavier than the last, and Shifty wasn't the only one carrying scars. The rest of the band faced their own pain. Guitarist Rust Epik, one of the group's early members, passed away in 2004 from a sudden heart attack. Then came the shocking loss of DJ AM in 2009, who had been part of Crazy Town's early days before moving on to a successful solo career. His accidental overdose was another heartbreak that added to the band's tragic history. It started to feel as if every person connected to Crazy Town carried some piece of its curse. The band tried to rise again. They reunited several times over the years, performing small tours and even releasing new music. But the magic of Butterfly was something they could never truly recreate. The sound of the 2000s had evolved, and so had the audience. What once felt fresh and emotional now felt like a memory from another world. Still, one thing never changed: the fans. Butterfly remained timeless. Every time it played on the radio, at a party, or in a nostalgic playlist, people were reminded of that brief, shining moment when Crazy Town ruled the airwaves. And even though fame took more than it gave, the song kept their name alive. For Shifty Shellshock, that song was both a wound and a reminder that even in chaos, beauty can exist, and that once upon a time, a troubled soul turned his pain into something the whole world sang along to. In June 2024, the news broke that stunned millions around the world. Shifty Shellshock, the iconic voice behind Butterfly, had passed away at the age of 49. Reports confirmed that his death was caused by an accidental overdose. For fans who had grown up with his music, it felt surreal. The man whose voice had once defined the early 2000s, whose words had soundtracked so many lives, was suddenly gone. As the story spread, social media filled with an outpouring of grief and nostalgia. People began sharing memories of the first time they heard Butterfly. Some said it played during their teenage years, when everything felt new and full of promise. Others recalled hearing it during difficult times, saying the song had given them comfort when nothing else could. It wasn't just a hit, it was a memory frozen in time. A symbol of innocence, love, and a generation's emotional rhythm. But beneath all the tributes, there was an undeniable sense of sadness. Fans knew Shifty had been fighting personal battles for years. His death didn't just mark the end of his life, it closed the final page of a long, painful story filled with fame, addiction, recovery, and relapse. The same man who once sang about transformation and love had spent much of his life trying to escape his own demons. For those who had followed Crazy Town from the start, it felt like losing a part of their youth. Butterfly had made them dream, dance, and believe in something simple yet powerful. And now, its creator had become another tragic reminder of how cruel the spotlight can be. Fame had lifted Shifty Shellshock high above the world, but it had also exposed every weakness, every vulnerability. The industry that once celebrated him had also watched his slow descent, sometimes with sympathy, other times with judgment. Crazy Town's story, and especially Shifty's, became more than just a tale of one-hit fame. It became a symbol of how fragile success can be and how easily the weight of it can crush the person behind the image. It showed how fame doesn't always heal pain, it often magnifies it. Even after his passing, Shifty's voice continues to echo in the words that made him immortal. "Come my lady, come my lady, you're my butterfly, sugar baby." That line, once a joyful anthem, now feels bittersweet, a reminder of beauty, loss, and the fleeting nature of fame. His story ended tragically, but his song will forever remain alive in the hearts of those who still press play and remember. Today, Crazy Town is remembered as one of the most unique and misunderstood bands of the early 2000s. Their music came from a time when rock, rap, and pop were merging into something new. They were young, creative, and hungry, and for a brief moment, they conquered the world. Butterfly remains a timeless song. Its soft melody, romantic lyrics, and nostalgic rhythm still play at parties, in movies, and on radio stations. It's one of those songs that instantly transports people back to a specific moment. Sunny days, love stories, teenage memories. But beyond the song lies the deeper story. Crazy Town's rise and fall is about how difficult it is to hold on to success when it arrives too fast. It's about the human cost behind the spotlight. Fame can give you everything, but can also take everything away when the applause fades. In interviews, Shifty often said he didn't want Butterfly to define him. He wanted to be remembered for the band's versatility and their creative drive. But as time went on, that one song became both his greatest gift and his biggest burden.
But it was also cool because Butterfly got so big, it almost got too big. I was like, stop. And it went from being something cool and unique to something that was almost like, oh, I don't want to hear that song again. and you can't stop it. You're like, no, it's big enough, stop. And it kept getting bigger and bigger. And what happened is it made me seem, everyone just thought that was me, And so when I finally did the show, what I found out it did is it made me human. And it made people go, oh, all right, because they just saw this guy, glossy, thing in a video, and so it was the first time that people were like, oh, all right, like this is who this person is, and it got people to. And so I think for my career, it really helped me because now I see people and they're like, I want you to do great, and I watched you on that, and I related it to it, and so it made people, attached to who I am.
Still, there's something beautiful about how the song continues to live. Decades later, people still find joy and peace in it. It reminds them of love, freedom, and youthful hope. And in a way, that's how Shifty lives on, through the music that continues to touch hearts. Crazy Town's journey isn't just about music. It's a mirror of what happens when passion meets fame, when art meets industry, and when dreams meet reality. Their story teaches that talent isn't always enough. The industry can lift artists up and abandon them just as fast. And behind every catchy melody and polished video, there's a person trying to hold themselves together. It also reminds us that people who appear to have everything, fame, money, fans, can still be fighting battles we never see. Shifty's struggles were public, but many others face similar demons silently. His openness, even through his pain, helped others feel less alone. For some, Crazy Town will always be that one-hit band. But for those who look closer, they represent something much more human, a story of rise, fall, and fragile redemption. When you listen to Butterfly today, it doesn't sound like a tragedy. It sounds like a celebration of love and peace. But for those who know the story, every lyric carries a bittersweet echo. It's the sound of hope born out of chaos, the voice of a man who wanted to change, who wanted to feel alive, who found inspiration in someone who believed in him. Shifty Shellshock may have struggled with his demons, but he gave the world a song that still makes people smile. And maybe that's what matters most. The legacy of Crazy Town isn't just about their fall, It's about the fact that they created something that outlasted their pain. A song that will continue to remind people that beauty can come from broken places. Butterfly isn't just a hit, it's a time capsule of emotion, a symbol of a generation, and a reminder that even when life gets dark,
Even before that, even just being in rehearsal with the band, to being on the main stage at Ozfest, to going #1 with Butterfly. I mean, I'll forever be grateful for what we did together. His legacy is great music that we created together.
moments of light can still break through. And maybe that's the real story behind Crazy Town, the story of finding something beautiful in the middle of chaos.